Well, I think there's a constant discussion, even prior to this administration, about the leaks or the flaws, if you will, in the student exchange visitor program. Lots of overstays, optional training, people, trying to be employed, coming as an F1 and just never going to classes and becoming a fugitive or an overstay or worse. The 9/11 commission and the results of, the effectiveness of the terrorists on 9/11, if you want to call it that, depended on a flawed visa system, and a couple of them were actually student overstays, or came as visitors and applied and stayed here because they got into the system as students. And so there's always been it's always been a difficult enforcement regime for whatever administration is in charge. I think this administration, editorially, if you will, when they mention something, it becomes in the zeitgeist for everybody. And I'll give you the one example, like we're all talking about what happened, the tragedy that happened to George Floyd. But when the president mentioned Juneteenth, there's a whole generation of people who now know what that means because he got attacked for bringing up something that nobody ever heard of before, or a lot of people haven't heard of before, certainly outside of Texas. And so this is the same kind of thing. This is another avenue of effort, if you will, by the enforcement regime, backed up by the administration and the president, to say, hey, this is a leaky system. We should do some things about it. And here's an opportunity, right? We've got schools that have declared that they're not going to open in the fall for the foreseeable future, and all of their coursework is going to be done online. And with today's technology, that means you don't have to be in the United States, which means the risks of allowing hundreds of thousands of foreign students into the country in the fall is minimized because they can stay home and still attend, still pay tuition, you get the full benefit of education as it is in the virtual world.
And what are some of the numbers? Like, how many visa overstays of student visas do you think there are? Kind of how many student mills that are kind of fraudulent schools that the student exchange visitor program gives, every year? Or are there kind of some sense behind that?
Yeah, I don't have the numbers, not being in the agency, but I can tell you when I was there, HSI was on multiple fronts attacking, if you will, this problem. These like mills, these schools that are farces in effect to get people into the country under false pretenses as F1 students. They never attend classes. There's no campus. There's no university. There's no degree at the end. It's a loophole in the immigration system. They get vetted by the department. They get vetted by SEVP at the border, and we're not aware at the time as a government that these are not legitimate schools. And then on the other side of that ledger, you have legitimate schools who people sign up and pay tuition for just to come to the country, because otherwise they wouldn't qualify as a non-immigrant or as an immigrant. And so this is an area of immigration enforcement that needs to be watched carefully. And each administration, including this one, has brought cases against these visa mills. And last year, right before I left, HSI was working a case that broke in early June, where they took down hundreds of students who had come here. They essentially took over the mill to see how deep the network ran in the US and across the globe. And so it was a good case in where we could actively see this fake school that was soliciting people to come into the country illegally, but then students who were gaming it as well. They had no intention of going to coursework or getting a degree. They just wanted to get into the country.